This just may be the greatest time ever to be a Spider-Man fan. You got your Spider-Man PS4 game, you've got your awesome Tom Holland MCU Spidey, but maybe most impressive, Sony's Into the Spider-Verse gave us one of the best Spider-Man stories ever told, maybe one of the best superhero movies ever made. But let's not forget a time that was just a few years ago, when the Sony-controlled Spider-Man movies were a little rougher around the edges. The dark era between the mostly pretty good Sam Raimi movies and, well, Spider-Verse seemed like it might not ever end. Worse yet, the Sony email leak from 2014 proved that they had more than enough bad ideas for years to come. And now that the Mark Webb Amazing Spider-Man movies are but like a distant memory, we thought we'd look back into those emails and remind everyone of the weird, strange, and frustrating insanity that nearly consumed Spider-Man forever. It's gonna be bad, so just get ready, you're not gonna like it. I don't know why you're here. Number 1, Kevin Feige was desperately trying to save The Amazing Spider-Man 2, a film that he had no stake in just because he loved Spider-Man and wanted the character to be properly treated. The entire reason that the Marvel Cinematic Universe has been mostly cohesive and totally and arguably successful is because of Kevin Feige, and he has been able to steer the good ship MCU through some pretty choppy waters. But the guy's greatest asset isn't his ambition and skill, it's that he's a bona fide, undeniable nerd for this kind of stuff. He really cares about Spider-Man. So when the poor guy saw Amazing Spider-Man 2 spiraling towards the gutter where it eventually did land, he tried futilely to save it with a bevy of extremely helpful and unfortunately ignored notes. Pacing, plotting, themes, even the character of Peter Parker and Spider-Man himself. He had dozens of notes on the movie, things that could be obvious to anyone who cared about Spider-Man, and things that are doubly obvious to anyone who, has seen any movie ever. Here are some choice examples. Tone down Paul Giamatti's performance so he seems a bit more menacing and less cartoonish. There are too many storylines. We need to choose which ones we are focusing on and lift out the other ones. Seems like the movie switches point of views a lot. Why are we in Max's point of view during the car chase? Worth looking to playing it out from Spidey's POV. Andrew's performance is all over the place. A lot of crying and then a lot of mania. Hard to track him emotionally sometimes. That's a good one, Kevin. I agree with you. I'm sorry, Andrew. Kind of like the morgue, but hate the dancing mortician. Cliche. Spider-Man needs to feel more directly responsible for preventing the planes from crashing. And last but not least, don't like the idea that May tells Peter his parents were spies because 2 seconds later, he finds out that they are not, and it again fights with the idea that he's an ordinary kid. The crazy thing is, not only did Feige have zero stake in Amazing Spider-Man 2, but he actually had incentive to let Sony fail hilariously. It both made him and the MCU look better by comparison if Amazing Spider-Man 2 sucked, and it would help feed into the narrative that Sony should hand Spider-Man back to Marvel. And yet, Feige still tried his damnedest to help Sony make a great Spider-Man film because he loves the character so much. That is a true hero. I mean, not like a true hero, like a real hero, but like that's a guy who makes movies better. Which is pretty good still. Not a bad thing to do if that's your job, is to do it well. Number 2, Venom, more like Vendum. That is a joke about the way his name sounds, and it's not good. So look, the Tom Hardy solo Venom movie isn't good by any stretch of the imagination. Yes, I mean, it was fun, I had a very good time watching it, but it was a profoundly idiotic shit show that feels more like a music video from 2004 than it feels like a professionally made superhero movie. However, for as unbelievably bonkers as it is that Sony decided to make a solo Venom movie disconnected from Spider-Man entirely, they could have made much worse decisions. The first thing, and maybe least objectionable, is that everyone's favorite melted action figure-faced hunk Channing Tatum desperately wanted to play Venom. Hot off the Sony Jump Street movies, rowdy, excitable dude bro Cheddar Taters wanted to jump feet first into some black symbiote goo, and he did this by pitching a vague Venom movie in an exclamation point laden email to producer Reed Carolyn that he described, and I quote, as a really sick idea, but it's a mountain. Crazier yet, Sony bought into this nondescript Venom non-pitch and sent it to Sony president Amy Pascal almost immediately. Look, I love Tom Hardy's goofy performance and strong voice accent choice, but I'm beginning to think that real-life, short-sighted, self-confident, loudmouth Chappy Potato is the only person who could ever really do the role of Eddie Brock justice. And hey, as long as we're on the topic of Amy Pascal, let's just say that she had some extremely defined ideas for Venom's origins, which also happens to be the goofiest shit that I have ever heard. There's no appropriate preamble for this, so let me just read her internal email, which is written in all caps. We didn't stylize it like this. This is just how she wrote it, and I imagine how her voice sounded in her head. Let's talk! This is really similar to what Matt pitched me, this am about Venom, which he doesn't think is a movie on its own, but that Spider-Man and Sinister Six are the team. In the next movie, he goes to them for help. / maybe fighting Carnage. He wears the black suit, but all the Sinister Six guys think it's lame, and he takes it off and it falls into the wrong hands. First of all, it's really hard to do such an accurate Amy Pascal impression, but yes, let's take a step back to make sure that you understood that correctly. Spider-Man, fighting the Sinister Six in his black suit, gets his outfit teased so hard by the enemies that he cries and takes it off, at which point it goes off and becomes Venom. And this is ignoring mention that Carnage is already just out there and about for some reason. And hold up, because if you think that Carnage being present before Venom is the most messed up thing that they were thinking about doing with the villains, you've got another thing coming right now with the next entry. Number 3, their dream cast for the Sinister Six was legitimately insane. For a hot minute, the entire future of Sony's Spider-Man franchise depended on the villain group known as the Sinister Six, which compared to some of their other baloney ideas isn't the most ludicrous thing. After all, Spider-Man has a classic Rose Gallery with Doc Ock, Electro, Kraven, Mysterio, Sandman, and Vulture all comprising the original 6, and you have to at least hand it to Sony that they at least attempted to introduce a broad gang of villains with the Lizard, the Green Goblin, Rhino, Alistair Smith, and Electro all by the time that Amazing Spider-Man 2's credits roll. Building a franchise in an evil Avenger-style gathering would have been a good way to differentiate the hero universe from the MCU. The only things holding them back were, number 1, the only movies in the universe so far were Amazing Spider-Man 1 and 2, which were terrible, and number 2, no one in charge had any clue what they were doing whatsoever. Somewhere in their delusional fit, they put together a list of hopefuls for their big bats, largely comprised of people who all either didn't fit the roles at all, or people who would never do the movies, and in most cases, both. For everyone's favorite rotund bowl-cut sporting Dr. Octopus, they wanted Sean Penn, Denzel Washington, George Clooney, Daniel Craig, Colin Firth, Matthew McConaughey, yes, you heard me right, Will Smith, Ryan Gosling, Matt Damon, and of course, for good measure, Channing Tatum. For Sandman, Channing Tatum, Woody Harrelson, Tom Hardy, Jared Leto, who Amy Pascal suggests could also play Felicia Hardy, Jonah Hill, Sacha Baron Cohen, Javier Bardem, Sharlto Copley, Joel Edgerton, Jason Clarke, Chris O'Dowd, Michael Pena, Seth Rogen? Seth Rogen? Seth Rogen, really? Danny McBride. Yes, that Danny McBride, the one from, all the times he played Danny McBride. They even put together a nice list of actors that they want to work with, but don't really care who they play, which seems to me then is basically identical in purpose to the previous 2 lists. Idris Elba, but only with his British accent, they note. Frances McDormand, Bryan Cranston, Ruth Wilson, Rose Byrne, and Jackie Chan. And we'll also have to assume that it's implied that Channing Tatum is on this list as well. He's not present, but he's always present in these emails. He's like a pervasive cheddar cloud to the whole thing. My main takeaway here is, and I actually don't know what my main takeaway is. What does it even say when you're trying to cast a classic villain like Sandman and Tom Hardy and Jonah Hill are interchangeable equivalents in your mind? What does it mean when the emails go on to express preference for mad genius Doc Ock to be played by Matthew McConaughey, who's made an entire career out of playing spaced out yokels and airy-headed idiots? It's worth checking out this thread because of the color they offer on their selects. It's nothing short of baffling, said Amy Pascal about Doc Ock. I can't help but think of Sean Penn in The Secret Life of Walter Mitty. Could be Doc if he played it that way. That's right, they saw Sean Penn in a bit role in the already forgotten 2013 critical disaster, The Secret Life of Walter Mitty, and they said, that's our Dr. Octopus. These people are paid money for their jobs that they do. Number 4, all of it, just just all of it. I get just all of it. The overriding subtext to all of the Sony Spider-Man emails is that they just had no goddamn clue what they were doing. They knew that they had a messy franchise on their hands and that their shareholders were expecting them to compete with the MCU. One particularly grim email lists about 10 unrelated, totally different plans for the future of the franchises. And here are some of the best. Invite Raimi to pull a Bryan Singer on X-Men and return to the franchise as the filmmaker, which I'm sure I don't need to remind you, they had just fired Sam Raimi unceremoniously and rebooted his franchise against his will. Get multiple projects happening ASAP, including Sinister Six sequel, if we love Drew's script, Matt produces. Separate trilogy developed and overseen by Raimi and or Cope, or using some other creative overlord, using one of the epic storylines from the books. Death of Spidey, Doc Ock as Spider-Man, a la Superior Spider-Man, the multiple Spider-Man saga per Josh Boone's suggestion, etc. with new producer. Maybe Sam Raimi does Silver Age Spidey on a separate trilogy as it's mapped out riffing from modern Ultimates, Venom Carnage saga, developing next steps as trilogies and not standalones with smart. How many trilogies are they planning at once? I don't get it. Separate Venom project, Matt produces. Lisa Joy project, what does that even mean? These aren't ideas. The goal would be 1 or 2 trilogy tracks, 2 side movies, and Sinister Six sequels as separate track if we like Drew's direction. So now's a good time to draw in a big Channing Tatum free breath and thank your lucky stars that none of this came to be. Spider-Man is largely back in the hands of the MCU and Kevin Feige. Into the Spider-Verse somehow persevered to be one of the greatest representations of the character. Venom kind of didn't fully suck. But never forget what almost happened with Spider-Man and Sony. And never forget the immortal words of Sally Field describing her experience of playing Aunt May in the Amazing Spider-Man films. You can't put 10 pounds of shit into a 5-pound bag. Well, actually you can. It just leaks out the sides, much like these emails leaked out to the internet and rained down like fragrant feces upon us. Hey everyone, Tony here. Do you love sci-fi? Do you love comedy? Do you love character development over the course of an epic and hilarious adventure across the galaxy? Because then you will love Troopers, based on the old College Humor series and loosely resembling some of the big important movie franchises that I can't name, but you can guess. Troopers is on Dropout.tv with a whole new story arc and a big budget this time, so that's cool. Sign up now, get a free week, and enjoy. You will love it. Dropout.tv.